just as a refresher, I think the three buckets was the idea of, finding like the best, easiest job that you can find. It's not going to kill you and take a bunch of your time, but you have some, freedom, flexibility, and upward mobility, and you're making a decent salary. That was always like my key starting off was that, I saw a lot of people that had like super high end jobs and they were making, three, four, 500,000 a year, but unfortunately, because of that level of job, they had no other life. They weren't able to really even travel or do fun things, let alone think about how they wanted to invest or how they wanted to get out of the rat race. So I think, my thinking behind that was always, and it's difficult because to every person, like what's best, easiest, and what's like flexible. I think that depends on the person. But to me, I just always wanted to have some kind of job where I could work really hard, I could make a good salary, I could had some upward mobility, but it just wasn't killing me and taking like all of my time, right? So that's kind of bucket one. Bucket two is more like the idea of, for me at least, it was thinking the all the people that I saw that as I did research that were successful were investors. So like it didn't matter if you did a company that you built from the ground up, like a Mark Zuckerberg or a Jeff Bezos. The bulk of their income or net worth came from the fact that they were invested in that company. And a lot of other people, it's the same thing, whether they're investing in real estate or stocks or private equity funds or whatever it is, you have to be an investor. And I think it's more crucial today in today's world than it's ever been with, obviously inflation and the cost of things being so high, like you have to outpace that. So investments is the second bucket because of that reason that, okay, great, you can have a great job. And I saw a lot of people when I was younger who were those people that were making, two, three, four, 500,000 a year. And they were still, in some cases living paycheck to paycheck because, they bought a nicer car, they bought a nicer house, they had all these bills and expenses, and their paycheck comes in and it literally goes out. And so the only people that could really get ahead were investors. So taking the funds from that job that you have and kind of dumping it into the second bucket, which is the investment bucket. And then over time, if that grows and you still don't find a passion, well, at least bucket one, you have a decent job with some upper mobility. And then, you can eventually build a trajectory where you're getting, more comfortable in that job, you're making some headway in that job, and you can build a future in that. And then bucket two, as that grows, your investments are getting bigger so that, even without the third bucket, which is, your goal, your passion, your drive, a project that you want to build, if those first two buckets are moving upwards, you can still have a relatively decent life, right? So that's kind of the concept of that second one. Let that second one come and grow big enough where hopefully one day, even if you never find the third bucket, that second bucket can be so big that you don't need the first bucket anymore. Like I don't need the job anymore because now my investments have grown to a point where I could theoretically have the option to leave the job. So third bucket, of course, is like to me what I would call like the dream bucket, right? Like what's the thing that you actually really want to do, And like I said, a lot of people don't have that necessarily, and that's okay, right? I mean, the third bucket is more if you can build the safety and security from the first two buckets, it gives you the opportunity to take a risk and really try for the big dream. So somebody who say, they're a high level executive at a company, they're doing really well, but you know what? They're just not, they don't really love their job. They're kind of tired of the rat race. And all they really want is they want to own a bakery or a coffee shop, or, they want to do some kind of like animal shelter business. They want some other kind of thing that they really enjoy doing. But it's really, again, it's hard to take that risk. And you kind of feel like a fool of like, okay, I've got this job where I'm making 100K, 150K a year. I'm going to quit this job to go, start a bakery or a pizza shop or whatever it is. Like it seems counterintuitive. And most people would tell you, like, don't leave that great job. But we all know if we've been in the working world long enough that a job for most people is never truly fulfilling. And most people want to do something that they're passionate about. So your third bucket is truly like your passion bucket, your dream bucket. Like what would you do if you didn't have to worry about money? And ideally, maybe you can make that thing into a business or into some kind of income generating thing. So but most people don't want to take the chance to do it. And again, my work around that was that let me build a first bucket where I have a good job, and then let me funnel some of that money into a second bucket where I can grow investments. And then ideally, if I come to the place where I understand what I actually want to do, or I have a great idea that I want to take a risk on, I'm able to take that risk because now I've built my first two buckets big enough that I can actually feel comfortable taking the risk. And I think that's what stops most people from taking any risk, is they never really feel comfortable enough to do it.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Khalil. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I definitely want you to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more content like this. But if this content had any value to you, click the like button as well.